everyone, welcome back to GK Today. I'm Nuzhat Sana and in this video I'll discuss today's top current and static general studies questions for UPSC Prelims Examination 2022 onwards. And these questions are framed keeping in view both the factual as well as analytical aspects of UPSC Prelims exam. Also, I would like to inform you that these questions are part of GK Today's UPSC Prelims test series, which is available in GK Today Android app. And the test series for 2022 Prelims examination comprises total of 7500 questions, divided 2500 questions on current general studies and 5000 questions on static general studies. And the series has started from May 2021 and it will end with UPSC Prelims Examinations 2022. So if you wish to access all questions of GK Today UPSC Prelims test series, you may subscribe the test series in the app. So now without wasting any further time, let's get started.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our brand new series of UPSC Prelims Model Questions Practice, and today it is your 6th lecture. Now those who are new to this channel, let me inform you briefly that this particular series is our latest initiative in which every day we'll be discussing most important 5 questions that are relevant for your upcoming UPSC Prelims examination. And in this, we will not just see which of the questions are right and which are wrong. Rather, we will analyze each of the statement in a detailed manner to make our concepts crystal clear. Okay? So now let's start. Question number 1. With reference to the various natural straits around the world, consider the following observations. So regarding different type of straits in the world, 4 statements have been given and you have to identify which of the following are correct. Okay? First statement says, Bosporus Strait connects the Sea of Marmara and the Black Sea. First of all, what do you understand by the term strait? It is a kind of thin channel of waterways, means kind of narrow passage of water that connects two seas or two other large areas of water. Okay, so there are 3 characteristics of the straits. First is, it should be formed by natural process. Then second is, it should be narrower than the sea it connects. And third property is, it should be navigable. So if these 3 characteristics are there in any particular channel, then that is called as strait. Okay, I hope it is clear now. So the first statement says, Bosporus Strait connects the Sea of Marmara and the Black Sea. First of all, do remember that this particular strait is also called as Strait of Istanbul. And it is the narrowest strait in the world which is used in international navigation. And yes, obviously it connects the Sea of Marmara and the Black Sea. So this one is right. But why it is in news? Because few months back its color had been changing suddenly due to a surge in number of the microorganism named as Ameliania. This organism is a single-celled microorganism visible only under a microscope. Okay, so that's why this strait is quite important. Second statement says, the Strait of Hormuz connects the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf. So yes, the Strait of Hormuz connects the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf in West Asia. Also, it is a strategically important checkpoint and a major route for shipping of oil and natural gas. Why this strait was in news? Because the army of Iran conducted an annual 3-day naval exercise near it. So basically it separates North Iran from South Arabian Peninsula. And it is the world's busiest shipping lane because there are limited alternatives to bypass the strait. Okay, this is also correct. Third statement says, Strait of Malacca divides the Malay Peninsula from the Sumatran island. So yes, this is a channel that connects the Indian Ocean with the Pacific Ocean. And it divides the Malay Peninsula from the Sumatran island. This is also correct. Now why the question on Strait of Malacca has been given here? Because of an article based on South China Sea, Vietnam approaches United Nations against China, which talks about China's assertiveness and corresponding disputes in the South China Sea, and that's why Strait of Malacca is quite important. Okay, and the last statement says Bering Strait separates Russia from Japan. First of all, this strait lies in the Pacific Ocean and it separates Russia from North American continent and not Japan. So here it should be North America, okay? So the Russian shore along this strait is a closed military zone and all unauthorized travelers arriving by crossing the strait may be arrested in Russia, okay? So this is wrong and the correct answer becomes only 1, 2 and 3. Now let me tell you a few more important straits, but before that I have to make some space, okay? First is Gibraltar Strait. It basically connects Mediterranean Sea with Atlantic Ocean. Second is Sunda Strait, and this connects Java Sea, which lies in Pacific Ocean, with South Indian Ocean, okay? Then third is Park Strait. It connects Bay of Bengal in the northeast with Park Bay in southwest. And one last, Bab al-Mandab Strait, and it separates Arabian Peninsula from the Horn of Africa. Okay, so these are some of the important straits that can be asked in your exam. Now question number 2, athlete biological passport is dash. So here two statements have been given regarding athlete biological passport and you have to identify which of the following are correct, okay? Let's read the statements one by one. First is, it is an electronic record for athletes issued as a part of anti-doping norms. First comes first, what do you understand by the term doping? So in sports term, use of any illegal performance enhancing drug or method is called as doping. Because use of drugs by unfair means is unethical in sports and goes against the spirit of sports. Now fundamental principle of the athlete biological passport is to monitor the selected biological variables over time that indirectly reveal the effects of doping rather than attempting to detect the doping substance or method itself, okay? So this word is quite important here, indirectly. So yes, this is an electronic record for athletes issued as a part of anti-doping norms. This one is right. And the second statement says, it is used to indirectly determine the effect of doping on athlete's body. So already I've told you that this word was important. So yes, this statement is also right. Actually, in these passports, certain biological markers are monitored over a period of time, which is in contrast to the technique of directly looking for the doping substances in the athlete's body. So the first guideline for issuing biological passports were released by WADA, that is World Anti-Doping Agency, in the year 2009, and it has two modules. First is steroidal and second is hematological. So actually this particular module monitors an athlete's steroidal variables over time that may be indicative of steroid abuse. And this particular module monitors an athlete's unique hematological means blood variable over the time that may be indicative of the effects of blood doping, such as blood transfusion or the use of ESAs. Okay, so in the year 2019, India's National Anti-Doping Agency also announced an athlete biological passport program. Okay, now one more important thing I have to tell you. Mr. Siddharth Singh Longjam has succeeded Naveen Agarwal as the National Anti-Doping Agency's Director General recently. Okay, so your correct answer becomes both 1 and 2. Now question number 3. Consider the following major operations carried out by Indian Armed Forces in recent decades. And now which of the following is correct chronological order of the above from oldest to latest? So basically you have to set all these events in old to new format. Okay. So first is Operation Vijay. It was actually carried out in 1999 during the Kargil conflict to clear out the Pakistani infiltrators from the Kargil sector in Kashmir. Okay. Second is Operation Cactus. It was a kind of Indian Army intervention in Maldives in the year 1988, and it was carried out to stop a coup by a group of Maldivians and Sri Lankan mercenaries. Okay. Third is Operation Maitri. It was a rescue and relief operation of the Indian Army in country Nepal, and it was carried out after 2015 earthquake. And the last is Operation Meghdoot. This is a 1984 Indian Army operation in the Siachen region of Kashmir, and after which it resulted in the Indian Army gaining control over the Siachen glacier before Pakistan could carry out its operation Abadil. Okay, so correct answer becomes, first is 1984 means 4, then 1988 means Operation Cactus, then Operation Vijay means 1999, and last is 2015 means Operation Maitri. So answer becomes 4213, option number C. Now question number 4. Which of the following countries have decriminalized cannabis as of 2021? First of all, what is cannabis and why it is harmful? So basically it contains cannabinoids which helps in numbing the pain by acting on cannabinoid receptors in our brain, and overdose of which can lead to death also. So what is the scene in India regarding cannabis? Actually, India criminalized the cannabis under American pressure in the year 1985 through the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. But as per the Government of India survey, even after 3 decades of criminalization of cannabis, ganja and charas usage remains high, that is 1.3 crore consumers are there, and 2.2 crore consumers are for bhang. Now since America and many other countries are now decriminalizing cannabis for medical and recreational use, but India refuses to change its status regarding this. And punishments under Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act in case of using is 1 to 10 years for quantity lesser than the commercial quantity but greater than the smaller quantity, and it becomes 10 to 20 years if it is for commercial quantity. Okay, so this was the scene in India. Now let's talk about the different countries. First is Netherlands. So the personal use of cannabis is allowed in the Netherlands, and since 1976 the Dutch government has tolerated the sale of cannabis for recreational use in the coffee shops. Okay, so this is true. Second is Australia. Australia has actually not decriminalized the cannabis, so this is wrong. Third is Mexico. So the personal use of cannabis was decriminalized in Mexico in the year 2009, and in the month of March 2021 the Mexican Chamber of Deputies passed a bill to legalize recreational marijuana. Okay, so this is also true. First is Jamaica. Jamaica decriminalized cannabis in the year 2015, and this country even has medical cannabis dispensaries, and the use of cannabis has been legalized for the practitioners. Okay, and fourth country is Uruguay. This is one of the first countries to legalize the recreational use of marijuana in the year 2013, and in this country recreational cannabis is sold only at pharmacies. So except Australia, all the options are correct. So the correct answer becomes 1, 3, 4 and 5, means option number B. Now coming to last question, with reference to the current government policy around white goods, consider the following statements. First of all, what do you understand by the term white goods? So these are actually major household appliances, or you can say large electrical goods that are used domestically and look white. Okay, for example, refrigerator, washing machine, etc. Okay, and these are also called as consumer durable goods. Now what is consumer non-durable goods? So these are the perishable goods such as fruits, vegetables, cosmetics, etc., which we need to purchase frequently. Okay. Now let's come to the statement. White goods sector enjoys production linked incentive scheme. Actually, the PLI scheme means production linked incentive scheme has been extended for the white goods sector with an outlay of 6,238 crore rupees. And 4% to 6% incentive is to be provided on incremental sales of white goods, means on AC and LED lights, which are manufactured in India for a period of 5 years. Okay. So yes, this is correct. Second statement says white goods sector falls under category 1 of India's FDI policy. What does it mean? Means 100% FDI is allowed under automatic route, that is non-resident investors don't require government approval for investing in this sector. So yes, this is also correct. And the third statement says 100% FDI is allowed under automatic route for white goods sector in India. Already I have told you, so this one is also correct. Also do remember that duty drawback scheme is also applicable to the white goods sector. What is this? It is a kind of scheme for exporters by which they can refund the excise duty and custom duty paid upon the purchase of input materials used in the manufacture of exportable products. Okay. Then there is export promotion capital goods scheme. What is it? Actually, this scheme facilitates the import of capital goods for manufacturing the white goods without having to pay custom duties. And these white goods are then exported to the other countries. Okay. So here correct answer becomes D option, that is 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Okay. So that's it for today. I hope you have liked the session. If you want to give any suggestion, reviews and feedback regarding these lectures, you can tell us in the comment section. Definitely we will try to implement that. So we will meet again with 5 more new and interesting questions. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe to GK Today. With this, me Nuzhat Sana signing off.